Ambassador Krell stood in front of the large digital star map, his four eyes blinking in confusion. The map showed thousands of stars spread across the galaxy. Different colors marked the territories of various alien species. But there was a problem. A large empty space at the edge of one spiral arm had no details at all. Just a simple red line with the words, "Restricted Zone." "Why is this area not mapped?" Krell asked, pointing at the empty space. The room fell silent. 7 different alien species had worked together for 10 years on this mapping project. It was almost complete except for this one area. Counselor Zelith, the oldest member of the Galactic Mapping Council, cleared his throat. "That is human space." "Human space?" Krell repeated. In his 50 years as a diplomat, he had never dealt with these humans. He had heard the name mentioned a few times, always in quiet voices, but knew little else. "Yes," Zelith continued, "Section 42(b) of our charter allows us to mark certain areas as restricted without detailed mapping if they are considered hazardous." Admiral Vexnar, representative of the mighty Draken Empire, shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Her scaled skin changed from green to a dark blue, a sign of caution among her kind. "But what makes this area hazardous?" Krell asked. "I've traveled across the galaxy for 30 years and never encountered these humans." Admiral Vexnar stood up suddenly. "This meeting is over for today. We will continue tomorrow." Everyone began leaving the room quickly. Krell stayed by the Tau map, more confused than before. The Draken were known as the most powerful warriors in the galaxy. They feared nothing. Yet the Admiral had clearly wanted to avoid this topic. Later that evening, Krell sat alone in the observation deck of the space station. The huge window showed the beautiful spiral galaxy spinning slowly against the blackness of space. He was still thinking about the strange empty spot on the map when someone approached. "Beautiful view, isn't it?" Krell turned to see a tall, two-armed being with pinkish-brown skin. The creature looked soft with no claws, scales, or natural armor. It wore a simple blue uniform. "Yes, it is," Krell replied politely. "I am Ambassador Krell of the Zentari Confederation, Eric Miller," the being said with a nod. "Junior Diplomat, Earth Alliance." Earth. The word triggered Krell's memory. That was the home planet of these humans. Then this soft-looking creature was a human. "You're human?" Krell asked, unable to hide his surprise. Eric smiled. "Last time I checked, yes." "I apologize for staring," Krell said. "I've never met a human before." "No need to apologize. We don't get out much beyond our borders." Krell decided to take this chance to get some answers. "I was studying the galactic map today. I noticed human territory is the only area not properly mapped. It's simply marked as restricted." Eric leaned against the railing, looking out at the stars. "I heard you were asking questions at the council meeting. No one would give me a straight answer," Krell said. "Is there something dangerous about human space?" Eric's expression remained friendly, but his eyes became more focused. "Depends on who's entering and why." A server droid floated by with drinks. Eric took 2 and handed one to Krell. "Let me ask you something, Ambassador," Eric said. "What have you heard about humans?" Krell thought carefully. "Very little. You're relatively new to interstellar travel. Your home system is in the Orion arm and—" He hesitated. "Others seem reluctant to discuss your species." Eric nodded. "And does that make you curious or cautious?" "Both," Krell admitted. "I've been a diplomat for 50 years. When people avoid a topic, it usually means there's an interesting story behind it." "Oh, there's definitely a story," Eric said with a small smile, "but telling it might not be the best idea." "Why not?" "Some things are better experienced than explained." Krell's inner eyelids blinked rapidly, a sign of growing interest among his species. "Now I'm even more curious." Eric looked at Krell for a long moment, then made a decision. "What if I arranged a diplomatic visit to human space, a cultural exchange? You could see for yourself." Before Krell could answer, a tall figure approached them. It was General Krovak, second in command to Admiral Vexnar of the Draken Empire. His scales were dark red, and the scars on his face showed he was a veteran of many battles. "Ambassador Krell," the general said in a rough voice, "I would advise against accepting any invitation to human territory." Eric's friendly expression didn't change. "General Krovak, always a pleasure." The general's eyes narrowed at Eric. "This is not your business, human. A diplomatic exchange between our peoples seems exactly like my business," Eric replied calmly. Krell looked between the two. The contrast was striking. The massive armored Draken warrior with his sharp claws and teeth, and the soft-looking human with no visible weapons. Yet Eric showed no fear. "Ambassador," the general said to Krell, "there are reasons we do not map human space. Good reasons." "What reasons?" Krell asked. "The Draken Empire has a special understanding with the humans," the general said carefully. "An understanding based on mutual respect," Eric added. The general made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Is that what you call it?" "What would you call it?" Eric asked, his voice still pleasant. The general's scales shifted to a deeper red. Without answering, he turned and walked away. "What was that about?" Krell asked when the general was gone. Eric sipped his drink. "History. The Draken and humans have history." "What kind of history?" "The kind that leads to mutual border respect, agreements." Krell's curiosity was now burning stronger than ever. "Mr. Miller, I think I would like to accept your invitation." Eric looked pleased. "Excellent. I'll need to get approval from my superiors, but I don't foresee any problems. A small diplomatic party would be welcome." "Thank you," Krell said. "But I must ask, is there any truth to the warning? Is human space dangerous?" Eric finished his drink and set the glass down. "Ambassador, let me be honest with you. Every species has learned to respect our borders for a reason. Some learned easily. Others," he glanced in the direction the general had gone, "learned the hard way." "Are you threatening me?" Krell asked, surprised. "Not at all," Eric said with a genuine smile. "I'm simply explaining why the maps end where they do. But don't worry. Official guests have nothing to fear." As Eric walked away, Krell turned back to the window. Somewhere out there, beyond the borders of the mapped galaxy, was the mysterious human space. And soon, he would see it for himself. Despite the warnings, Krell couldn't help feeling excited. After 50 years as a diplomat, very few things surprised him anymore. But these humans, with their missing map section and their strange effect on the fearsome Draken, these humans were already the most interesting discovery he had made in decades. Perhaps too interesting, a small voice in his mind whispered. But Krell ignored it. After all, what could these soft-looking beings possibly do that the mighty Draken Empire would fear? He would soon find out. 2 weeks after his meeting with Eric Miller, Ambassador Krell found himself on board the diplomatic vessel, Stellar Envoy. 4 other representatives from different alien species had joined the mission. All were curious about the mysterious humans and their unmapped territory. Krell stood by the large viewing window watching the stars streak by as they traveled at faster-than-light speed. Their destination was a human border station called Gateway 1. "Are you nervous, Ambassador?" asked Tilani, the representative from the peaceful Pelleran species. Her bird-like features showed concern. "Curious, not nervous," Krell replied. "Though I find it strange that General Krovak decided to join us." They both glanced across the room where the Draken general stood alone, his scaled skin a dark copper color. The general had unexpectedly volunteered for the mission, claiming the Draken Empire wanted proper representation. "His presence concerns me," Tilani whispered. "The Draken rarely show interest in diplomatic missions." Before Krell could respond, the ship's captain spoke over the communication system. "Attention all passengers. We are approaching the border of human space. Please, gather in the main viewing area." The 5 representatives moved to the large central room with its ceiling-to-floor windows. At first they saw nothing unusual, just the blackness of space with distant stars. Then they noticed it. A simple line of small satellites stretched across their path blinking with blue lights. Beyond this line, the stars looked the same, but everyone felt a strange tension in the air. "That's it?" asked Ambassador Zorak of the Vexillian Combine. "This is the great border that no one crosses, a line of small satellites?" General Krovak made a deep, rumbling sound. "Size is not everything, Vexillian." The ship slowed as it approached the satellite line. A communication alert sounded. "This is Captain Jane Wilson of Earth Border Station Gateway 1. Please identify yourselves." Their ship captain responded, "Diplomatic vessel Stellar Envoy, carrying ambassadors from 5 Galactic Council species. We have an invitation from Diplomat Eric Miller for a cultural exchange visit." There was a pause before the human replied, "Stellar Envoy, your invitation is confirmed. Please maintain your current speed and follow the guidance beacon to Docking Bay 3. As they crossed the satellite line, Krell noticed General Krovak's scales shift to a dark blue color, the same caution sign he had seen from Admiral Vexnar at the council meeting. "General," Krell said quietly, "you've been here before, haven't you?" The Draken's eyes narrowed. "Yes. Under what circumstances? Not pleasant ones," was all the general said before moving away. The human border station grew larger in their view. It wasn't particularly impressive compared to other stations Krell had visited. A simple ring structure with various docking, arms extending outward. Nothing about it suggested advanced technology or military power. As they docked, Krell wondered again why this unremarkable species had such an effect on the powerful Draken Empire. A welcoming party waited for them at Ipaoyao. The airlock. 5 humans stood in a row wearing blue uniforms with silver trim. In the center was a female with short brown hair. "Welcome to Gateway 1, she said, as the ambassadors stepped onto the station. "I'm Captain Jane Wilson. On behalf of the Earth Alliance, I welcome you to human space." One by one, the ambassadors introduced themselves. When it was General Krovak's turn, Captain Wilson's expression changed slightly. "General," she said, nodding. "It's been some time since a Draken official visited our territory." 17 Galactic Standard Years, the general replied stiffly. "Yes," the captain said. 17 years since the border incident." The words hung in the air like a storm cloud. None of the other ambassadors knew what the border incident referred to, but they could feel the tension between the human and the Draken. "Please follow me," Captain Wilson said, breaking the uncomfortable moment. "We've prepared quarters for all of you, and then we'll begin our tour of the station." As they walked through the corridors, Krell observed the humans they passed. They came in different colors and sizes, but all had the same basic features: soft skin, no natural weapons, walking on 2 legs. Nothing about them seemed threatening. The tour of the station was informative but revealed little about why human space remained unmapped. They visited living quarters, hydroponics gardens, and recreation areas, all standard features of any space station. During a break, Krell approached Captain Wilson. "Captain, I've been studying the Galactic mapping project for years. Your territory is the only section that remains blank. May I ask why?" Jane gave him a measured look. "What has Eric told you?" "Very little. Only that there are reasons for the border restrictions." She nodded. "Good. Let's just say it's better for everyone this way." "But what makes human space different?" Krell pressed. "Your technology seems comparable to other species. Your physiology doesn't appear remarkable." "Appearances can be deceiving, Ambassador," Jane said. "What do you know about human history?" "Almost nothing," Krell admitted. "We evolved as the apex predator on a particularly challenging world," she explained. "Earth has extreme climate variations, diverse terrain, and until recently we spent most of our history fighting each other. Many species have war in their past," Krell said. "True," Jane acknowledged. "But how many developed over 50,000 different ways to kill each other before they even reached space?" Before Krell could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Red lights flashed in the corridors. "All visitors to secure zones immediately," announced a voice over the communication system. Captain Wilson's friendly demeanor disappeared instantly. She touched a small device on her wrist. Wilson here, status report. Unidentified vessel approaching from Sector 7, replied a voice. Not responding to hails, approaching at high speed. Defense Condition 2, Jane ordered. Prepare intercept. Ships but hold at station perimeter. She turned to the ambassadors. Please follow me to the observation deck. You'll be safe there. Shouldn't we go to shelter? Asked Talani, her feathers ruffling with anxiety. That won't be necessary, Jane said calmly. This situation will be resolved quickly. They followed her to a large room with a wall-sized window, overlooking space. Through the window they could see 3 small human ships leaving the station. The ships were simple, sleek designs, much smaller than the military vessels Krell was familiar with. There, Jane pointed to a distant light approaching, rapidly. That's our visitor. As the light came closer, it took the form of a jagged ship with red markings. General Krovak hissed in recognition. Morgath raiders, he said. Pirates and scavengers. Dangerous. You know them? Krell asked. The Draken Empire has hunted them for years, the general replied. They are elusive and well-armed. Talani stepped back from the window. We should seek shelter. Morgath raiders are known for their brutality. Watch, Jane said simply, her eyes fixed on the scene outside. The 3 human ships approached the much larger raider vessel. Krell expected them to fire warnings or attempt communication. Instead, the small ships accelerated suddenly, moving in perfect coordination. What happened next was so fast that Krell had trouble following it. The human ships executed maneuvers he had never seen before. Impossible turns, spinning dives, all while firing precise shots at the raider vessel. Within minutes, the Morgath ship's engines were disabled. Now comes the interesting part, Jane said. 2 human ships remained in position while the 3rd attached to the raider vessel. Krell knew enough about space combat to understand what was happening. They were boarding the pirate ship. They're sending boarding parties? Ambassador Zorak asked in disbelief. Against Morgath raiders? That's suicide. General Krovak said nothing, but his scales had shifted to a deep purple, a color Krell had never seen on a Draken before. Less than 15 minutes later, Captain Wilson's wrist device beeped. Wilson here. Captain, this is Lieutenant Ryan. Vessel secured. 14 raiders captured, 2 casualties on their side, none on ours. Requesting permission to bring prisoners to holding cells. Permission granted, Jane replied. Good work, Lieutenant. She turned to the stunned ambassadors. And that, gentleman and lady, is why the maps end at our borders. Any questions? The room was silent. The next day, the diplomatic group boarded a human transport ship bound for Earth. Ambassador Krell sat by a window watching stars fly by as they traveled at speeds he didn't think possible for ships this size. After yesterday's demonstration, with the Morgath raiders, he had many more questions than answers. Across from him sat General Krovak, who had been unusually quiet since the incident. The Draken's scales remained a deep purple color. General, Krell said quietly, you weren't surprised by what we saw yesterday, were you? The general's eyes narrowed. No. You mentioned something called the border incident. What happened? General Krovak looked around to make sure no humans were nearby. 17 years ago, the Draken Empire decided to test human defenses. We sent a small fleet, 5 battleships, to probe their border. And? Krell leaned forward. None returned. The general's voice was flat. After that, we signed the border treaty. No Draken ships enter human space without permission. No human ships enter Draken space without permission. Krell blinked all 4 of his eyes in shock. The Draken Empire had the largest military fleet in the known galaxy. 5 battleships would be enough to conquer most worlds. How could they defeat 5 Draken battleships? They didn't just defeat them, the general said, his voice almost a whisper. They captured 3. The other 2 were destroyed when they refused to surrender. Before Krell could ask more questions, Captain Wilson approached them. We'll be arriving at Earth in about 2 hours, gentlemen. I suggest you rest before we land. The gravity might feel stronger than you're used to. After she left, Krell noticed the general had fallen silent again. Whatever had happened during the border incident had clearly left a deep impression on the Draken Empire. Earth's blue-green surface filled the viewing windows as they approached. Krell had visited many planets, but Earth looked particularly vibrant and diverse. They landed at a spaceport built on a large island surrounded by blue ocean. "Welcome to Earth," said a tall human male who met them at the landing pad. "I'm Admiral Frank Cooper of the Earth Defense Force. Your visit is a rare honor." The Admiral led them to a building with a large meeting room. Windows looked out over the ocean, and a cool breeze came in from outside. The walls were decorated with images of what Krell assumed were human ships and historical figures. "Your planet is beautiful," said Tilani, the Pelleran representative. "The variety of ecosystems is remarkable." Admiral Cooper nodded. "Earth has almost every type of environment you can imagine. Deserts, jungles, tundra, mountains, oceans. We evolved to survive in all of them." "Admiral," Krell said, "we witnessed an incident at the border station yesterday. Your ships dealt with Morgoth raiders very efficiently." "Yes, I received the report," the Admiral said. "The Morgoth have been a problem in that sector for some time. The Draken Empire has hunted those raiders for years," General Krovak interjected. "Yet, your ships captured them in minutes." Admiral Cooper smiled slightly. "We have some advantages in ship design and combat tactics." "It was more than that," Krell said. "Your ships moved in ways I've never seen. The coordination was perfect." "Human pilots train differently," the Admiral explained. "We have a saying, 'Train like you fight, fight like you train.' Our pilots practice those maneuvers thousands of times in simulators and real ships until they become instinct." "But how did they board a hostile vessel so quickly?" asked Ambassador Zorak. "Boarding actions are some of the most dangerous operations in space combat." Instead of answering, the Admiral walked to one of the wall displays. It showed an image of humans in some kind of competition. They were running, climbing walls, crawling under obstacles, and carrying heavy objects. "This is a military training exercise we call an obstacle course," he said. "Every human soldier runs courses like this regularly. We train to push our physical limits constantly." He touched the display, and it changed to show humans fighting hand to hand. "We've developed hundreds of different combat systems over our history. Before we reached space, we spent thousands of years fighting each other." "Many species have war in their history," Ambassador Zorak said. "True," the Admiral agreed. "But how many kept developing new ways to fight after they achieved peace? We never stopped improving our combat abilities even when we weren't at war." Krell thought about this. Most species developed weapons and tactics during conflicts, then focused on peaceful technologies during times of peace. The idea of constantly refining combat skills during peacetime was unusual. "But why?" Krell asked. "If your planet achieved peace, why continue military development?" The Admiral looked at him steadily. "Because we learned a hard lesson from our history. Peace doesn't last unless you're prepared for war." General Krovak made a sound that might have been agreement. It was the first time Krell had seen the Draken agree with anything a human said. "Come," Admiral Cooper said. "Let me show you something that might help explain." He led them outside to a large open area where human soldiers were training. Some were running in formation, others practicing combat moves, and a third group was assembling and disassembling weapons with incredible speed. "Nothing particularly advanced about this," the Admiral said. "We've been training soldiers this way for centuries. The technology changes, but the basics remain the same." They watched as a group of soldiers in special suits ran across the field carrying heavy packs. Despite the obvious weight, they moved quickly and steadily. "Those packs weigh half their body weight," the Admiral explained. "They'll run 10 miles like that." "Why?" asked Tilani, clearly disturbed by the sight. "Because someday they might need to," the Admiral said simply. "We don't train for what we hope will happen. We train for the worst possible scenario." As they continued their tour, they passed a building where soldiers were sitting in classroom settings. "Now they study tactics, strategy, and history," Admiral Cooper said. "Every human soldier learns from our past conflicts. We don't just train their bodies, we train their minds." Later, they were shown a demonstration of human ships in the atmosphere. The vessels performed complex maneuvers, sometimes flying so close together that Krell held his breath, expecting a collision, but it never came. The precision was perfect. That evening, they attended a formal dinner, hosted by high-ranking human officials. Krell found himself seated next to a human female, introduced as Dr. Linda Brown, a specialist in xenobiology. "I understand you've been asking about human capabilities," she said as they ate. "Yes," Krell admitted. "I'm trying to understand why your species has such an effect on others, particularly the Draken." Dr. Brown smiled. "It's not just our technology or training, though those are important factors. It's something more fundamental about how we evolved." "How so?" "Most intelligent species evolved from prey animals or omnivores with many natural predators," she explained. "Their instincts are focused on detecting and avoiding danger." "And humans?" Krell asked. "We evolved as pursuit predators," she said. "Our early ancestors would chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. We're not the strongest or fastest species on our planet, but we are among the most persistent." She pointed to General Krovak across the room. "The Draken are physically stronger than us in every way. Their ships were more advanced when we first met, but there's one thing they didn't expect." "What's that?" "We never give up," she said simply. "Other species retreat when they face overwhelming odds. Humans see impossible situations as challenges to overcome. When we're losing, we get creative, adapt, and try again with a new approach." Krell thought about the Morgath Raider incident. The human ships had been outnumbered and outgunned, but they'd attacked without hesitation. "That's why the maps end at human space, isn't it?" he asked. "Not because your technology is superior, but because of how you use it." Dr. Brown nodded. "As Admiral Cooper mentioned earlier, we prepare for the worst possible scenarios. When other species encounter us, they're facing an opponent who has already simulated the battle 1,000 times and developed countermeasures for every situation. That's..." Krell searched for the right word. "Terrifying. Only to potential enemies," she said with a smile. "To our friends and allies, it's reassuring. The human saying is, hope for the best, prepare for the worst." As the evening came to an end, Krell watched the humans interacting with the other representatives. They were friendly, respectful, and completely at ease. It was hard to believe. These were the same people who had so thoroughly defeated the Draken Empire that the mighty warriors now avoided their territory. The paradox of humans was becoming clearer to Krell. They weren't naturally stronger or more aggressive than other species, but their combination of persistence, adaptability, and constant preparation made them uniquely dangerous opponents. And that, he realized, was why the galactic maps ended at human space. On the final day of their Earth visit, Ambassador Krell was invited to meet with the leader of the human government. The meeting would take place in a city called Washington, D.C., which humans explained was their political center. As their transport flew over the city, Krell noticed how different it was from other parts of Earth they had seen. There were large white buildings with columns, open green spaces, and monuments of various shapes. The architecture was simple compared to other species' capital cities, but had a certain dignity to it. They landed near a large white building with a dome on top. Admiral Cooper led them through security checkpoints and into a circular office. "Welcome to the White House," said a human female who rose from behind a desk to greet them. "I'm President Susan Parker of the Earth Alliance." Krell had met many planetary leaders in his diplomatic career. Some wore elaborate costumes to show their importance. Others were surrounded by guards and advisors. President Parker wore a simple dark blue suit and had only 2 security personnel in the room. "Thank you for meeting with us, President Parker," Krell said with the formal bow of his species. "Please sit down," she said, gesturing to comfortable chairs arranged in a circle. "I understand you've had quite an educational visit so far." The 5 alien representatives took their seats. General Krovak seemed uncomfortable in the human-designed chair but said nothing. "Indeed," Krell replied. "We've learned much about human history and capabilities." "And do you understand now why the galactic maps end at our borders?" the president asked directly. Krell considered his answer carefully. "I believe I'm beginning to understand. Your species has developed unique approaches to warfare and defense. It's more than that. President Parker said. It's a mutual arrangement that benefits everyone. How does an incomplete galactic map benefit anyone? Asked Ambassador Zorak. The president smiled slightly. The unknown is a powerful deterrent, Ambassador. When other species don't know exactly what lies beyond our borders, they tend to be more cautious. But the Galactic Council prides itself on scientific accuracy, Krell said. Having an unmapped region goes against our principles. Sometimes principles must be balanced with practical concerns, President Parker replied. Let me be direct with you all. We are not opposed to peaceful cultural exchanges like this one, but we prefer to maintain certain ambiguities about our territory and capabilities. Krell thought about what they had seen over the past few days, the efficiency of human ships against the Morgath raiders, the constant training of human soldiers, and the revelation about the border incident with the Draken. There was clearly more to humans than met the eye. There's something I still don't understand, Krell said. Many species in the galaxy have military forces. Some, like the Draken, are known for their warrior culture. What makes humans different? President Parker looked at General Krovac. General, would you care to answer the ambassador's question? All eyes turned to the Draken representative. His scales shifted between dark purple and copper as he seemed to struggle with his thoughts. Finally, he spoke. The difference is perspective. Most species, including mine, evolved with natural predators and competitors that were evenly matched. We developed strength, armor, and weapons to survive. The general gestured toward President Parker. Humans had no equals on their planet. They became the dominant species not through overwhelming physical advantages, but through something else. What? Asked Tilani, the Peleran representative. Adaptability, General Krovac said. Persistence, and a particular kind of thinking we did not expect. President Parker nodded. The general is correct. Throughout our history, humans have faced countless challenges, natural disasters, climate changes, diseases, and our own internal conflicts. We survived not because we were the strongest species, but because we refused to accept defeat. She stood and walked to a window overlooking the city. Most species, when faced with overwhelming odds, calculate their chances and retreat if necessary. It's logical. But humans don't, General Krovac said, his voice lower. They keep fighting even when logic says they should surrender. They find new ways to fight, new strategies, new weapons. They never stop. Krell remembered what Dr. Brown had told him about humans evolving as pursuit predators. Is that what happened during the border incident? The room fell silent. President Parker returned to her seat. General, with your permission? The Draken nodded stiffly. 17 years ago, President Parker began. A Draken fleet entered our territory without permission. We asked them to leave. They refused. We expected them to retreat when they saw our superior numbers, General Krovac added. 5 battleships against their 3 defense vessels seemed like favorable odds. But you didn't retreat, Krell said to the president. No, she confirmed. Instead, we adapted our tactics. The Draken expected a direct confrontation, ship against ship. We used different approaches. What approaches? Asked Ambassador Zorak. General Krovac answered before the president could. They sent small, fast ships that our weapons couldn't track effectively. They used our own communication systems against us. They boarded our vessels with soldiers wearing armor we couldn't penetrate. The conflict lasted less than 1 Earth day, President Parker said. 3 Draken battleships were captured intact. 2 were destroyed when they attempted self-destruct procedures rather than surrender. Krell looked at General Krovac with new understanding. You were there, weren't you? I commanded one of the captured ships, the general admitted. I spent 2 years as a prisoner here before the peace treaty was signed. You were treated well? Tilani asked with concern. Better than we would have treated them, General Krovac said. They followed something called the Geneva Convention, rules for treating prisoners of war. They provided medical care, proper food, and never once used torture to extract information. This surprised Krell more than anything else he had learned about humans. A species that was so effective at warfare also had strict rules about how to treat enemies. After the treaty was signed, President Parker continued, "We returned all prisoners in the captured ships. In exchange, the Draken Empire agreed to respect our borders and support our request to keep our territory unmapped in official galactic records. And that's why the maps end at human space," Krell said, finally understanding. "Yes," the president confirmed. "It's not just about military security. It's about maintaining a balance. As long as there's some mystery about our capabilities, other species will approach us with caution and respect." Before anyone could respond, an aide entered the room and whispered something to President Parker. Her expression changed slightly. "It seems we have a situation developing," she said. "A Zentari colony world in the Rigel sector is under attack by unknown forces." "My people?" Krell stood immediately. "We must help them." "We're already doing so," President Parker said calmly. "Earth Alliance ships were conducting exercises nearby and have responded to the distress call." She touched a control on her desk, and a large screen appeared on one wall. It showed a space battle in progress. 3 human ships were engaging, a larger force of unknown vessels that were attacking a small planetary colony. "Those are Hive Collective ships," General Krovac said with a hiss. "Dangerous enemies. They strip planets of resources and leave nothing alive." They watched as the human ships executed complex maneuvers, drawing the Hive ships away from the colony. Despite being outnumbered, the human vessels moved with precision and coordination that seemed impossible. "Your colony has a population of about 5,000, correct?" President Parker asked Krell. "Yes," he replied, unable to take his eyes off the screen. "Mostly scientists and their families. They have minimal defenses. We've landed troops to help secure the colony while our ships deal with the Hive vessels," the president explained. "Standard procedure in these situations." Within hours, the battle was over. The Hive ships were either destroyed or had retreated. The Zentari colony was safe, with minimal casualties reported. Later, as the diplomatic party prepared to return to Galactic Council space, Krell sought out President Parker for a private word. "Thank you for saving my people," he said sincerely. "We were in a position to help, so we did," she replied simply. "That's what neighbors do." "I will recommend to the Council that the current mapping protocols remain unchanged," Krell told her. "I understand now why it benefits everyone." President Parker nodded in appreciation. "Thank you, Ambassador." "There's just one thing I still don't understand," Krell said. "Why show us all this? Why invite us to Earth and reveal so much about your capabilities?" The president smiled. "Sometimes the boundary needs maintenance. The most effective warning isn't telling someone to stay away. It's showing them exactly why respecting the border is in everyone's best interest." As Krell's ship departed Earth the next day, he looked at the star map on the bridge. The red line marking the edge of human space no longer seemed like a simple boundary. It was a courtesy, a warning that beyond this point, the rules were different. In his final report to the Galactic Mapping Council, Ambassador Krell wrote only one sentence about human territory. "The map ends here for a reason." No further questions were asked.